Hey everyone, welcome to Locked On Lakers for Tuesday. Brian Kamenetsky, Andy Kamenetsky. The Locked On Network has its top 100 NBA players. Where are the Lakers? We will tell you next.
You are Locked On Lakers, your daily Los Angeles Lakers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks to everybody for making Locked On Lakers first listen of every day, Monday through Friday, no matter how or where you get your podcasts. You're never going to pay for this one because it's never behind a paywall. Locked On Lakers on YouTube is where over 36,000 subscribers are all hanging out. They are watching Eurobasket. They're leaving questions. They're leaving comments. They're talking to us. They're talking to each other. Please make sure to leave those questions and comments on the YouTube page. We do use them. We look through them every day, looking for good things that we can use as inspiration for topics for the show, or actual questions that you ask us, or comments that we can use where you can see your name in bright lights.
Real quick
on the internet.
Brian, it's not just Locked On Lakers fans and Luka fans and everybody in Slovenia, Zdravo, that are watching Luka in Eurobasket. LeBron is also watching Luka in Eurobasket and posted to Insta a couple photos of Luka that says Luka dominates at Eurobasket. So at least with, there's constant swirling speculation about LeBron, his happiness level with the Lakers, discontent. Is he upset about being second fiddle to Luka? At the very least, he is not taking out any dissatisfaction on Luka, and he's going out of his way to congratulate him. Also, I want to know.
I believe actually LeBron is inside that costume of that blue police mouse looking.
I was just about to say, what's the deal with that? I want to know the backstory on that. It's Doc Franco. If you happen to be watching right now,
what's the deal with the blue police mascot thing?
Yeah, it's like a police. It looks like a police. Yes, like a police mouse. And, maybe it's a European thing. I know
maybe it's a fire captain. I'm just not sure what that's. It's an unusual mascot.
In the States, we're more used to police dogs. I don't know how big the mice grow in Europe. I haven't been there in a long time. Like maybe they get out of control.
It is, Andy. It's a much healthier walking culture over there than it is in America.
Mice get muscular.
It's protein. So make sure you're subscribing to the audio program, not just on YouTube, although feel free to subscribe there too. Subscribe to all of them. That way you've covered all of your bases. Mm-hmm. Of course, people like to get it on Apple or through Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. You can find the Locked On Lakers podcast, and we'll get to our top 100 here in a moment. We'll talk a little bit about LeBron James and some comments from Brian Windhorst about when he might retire. And Andy, if we get to it, we'll talk a little bit more about Andrew Wiggins. So because some commentary from Mark Stein on his Substack about that on Monday. Do want to let people know that today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Football season it's here. It's not even closer than you think, Andy. It's here. It's already started, and new customers can bet just $5. And if your bet wins, you get $300 in bonus bets. Download the FanDuel.com to get started. Rams 1-0. What a great NFL weekend it was. There were so many good games combined with that bananas finish with the Bills and the Ravens last time. If you were a Josh Allen guy in your fantasy league, you probably won. So, okay, we've got our top 100, Andy. You and I, we should note, hate exercises like this. We used to do it for ESPN, and we complained every year when we had to do it. They told us we were doing it with the Locked On Network, and we complained again.
But we did it, and we took it seriously. We took it
seriously. Although I will say my apologies to Cooper Flagg, who is 80th on this list, which I don't care if it's fair or unfair, but it's probably a few slots lower than it should be because I forgot to put him on and I wasn't going back to fix it. So
it's fun. I forgot to include Jokic, so it all evens out.
Jokic, who because of Andy's mistake, is the 26th best player in the NBA.
I clearly remembered to include Jokic. I said I took this seriously.
I picked up my mistake at 96, and I stuck him right there, so he's on my list.
Yeah. I didn't want to leave him out altogether, but I didn't want to go through all that.
I'm not moving my entire spreadsheet down by one.
I don't know how to do that.
No, but in all seriousness, that was part of the reason Cooper Flagg didn't get back on my list. Because let's say I would have put him at 70. I don't know. But like I don't like if there was a way to just bump everyone down one, I would do it that way. And whoever's 100, sorry, you're out of luck. I didn't know how to do that, and I wasn't fixing it. So anyway, apologies to the Flagg family.
Right now, we really did take it seriously.
We did, but mostly, but we complained about it. My point is, we hate exercises like this because I find the ranking of players to be you can get lost in the sort of minutia of it. Is the guy the fourth best player or the sixth best player, and
or the round numbers of it all?
Yes, and it's especially true when you start getting into like 63 versus 68. Like it's just like I'm not doing that. But what I do think is interesting is broadly, and you and I both agree about this, it can be instructive when you think about tiers.
Yes,
and where you think about where people are put relative to people around them. Mm-hmm. And there are 3 Lakers on this list. There is Luka Doncic, not unexpected. LeBron James, also not unexpected. And Austin Reaves. Luka came in at number 4 behind Jokic, Shai, and Giannis. LeBron came in at 12, and this was interesting, I think, in a couple ways. His sort of grouping around him is Donovan Mitchell, Jason Tatum, Kevin Durant, then LeBron, then Halliburton and Davis and Cade. 2 of those guys aren't going to play this year for all intents and purposes. So in that sense, LeBron is, the 10th or 11th best player for players who will see the floor this year.
For what it is worth, you and I both had Luka at 4, and we both also had LeBron at 8. So Luka came in the consensus where you and I had him. LeBron came in the consensus lower than both of us had him.
Which is, for a hater like you, Andy, it must have been painful for you to put LeBron in the top 10.
I took this thing seriously.
And then Austin Reaves at 58. So, I mean, these rankings, actually, if you've gone through what ESPN has done, what The Athletic has done, and things like that, the Lakers kind of fit in similar positions in all these things. Let's start with Luka at number 4. It's where I put him. I think it's the right spot.
It's where I put him as well.
That said, it's 4 with upside. And I think short of passing Jokic, a healthy Luka has the potential to be the guy that you kind of look at on a night-to-night basis and go, oh, yeah, he's probably he might be the second best player in the world right now. And in the tiers, if you want to think of guys as like sort of transformational stars, and then that like next level of guys who are like really bleeping good, but not quite, he's firmly in that top group.
And like we talked about for Monday's show, what is happening in Eurobasket right now feels like it is setting the stage for the summer of Luka turning into the season of Luka. Good health obviously will be necessary. He's got to stay on the court. But everything that we are seeing right now feels like the prelude to Luka having a spectacular season, a revenge body season, a double middle fingers season, a reminder, no, really, I'm that dude season, all of which is fantastic for the Lakers, A, because they get the benefits, but B, and we may not talk about this today, but it's something I want to get into over the course of the week. The Lakers with 3 guys in the top 60, and in particular, the 3 guys that are in there, and their skill sets, I think is both a reminder of the Lakers' upside as a team and the reasons you can get excited about them, particularly, and I know I want to talk about this in the next segment, LeBron and Luka both in the top 12 for a very specific reason. But like, you'll also see as we compare them to some other teams, like some of the weaknesses that the Lakers have across their roster compared to some of the other teams that are looking to contend. But a guy squarely in the top 5 can elevate a team in ways that even deeper rosters without that guy can't always reach. Like when you've got somebody like Luka playing at the level that we've seen in the past in Eurobasket and what seems to lie ahead, that can fix a lot of issues in and of itself.
Yeah, there's no question. And so that difference between just a regular superstar and sort of God tier superstar is not it's not a distinction without a difference. Then that is for sure. Let's talk about more about Luka. We'll bring LeBron into this conversation as well next.
Locked On Lakers is brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL season, it is upon us, and FanDuel is making sure you are ready for a kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers, you bet just $5, $5. And if your bet wins, you get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. So just pick something really glaringly obvious. And I love that FanDuel fits however you like to bet, player props, same game parlay, maybe jumping in as the game is already in progress. Like if you're somebody that just has a feel for how a fourth quarter is going to shake out and the final result, get ahead of it with a little wager. Make it a little more exciting for the team that you root for IRL, or just keeping an eye on your fantasy lineup. So you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet.
Fun little thing to note, Andy, before we get back into these rankings that the network has put out, top 100 for the NBA as judged by all of us hosts. But you mentioned yesterday that LeBron was one of the inductees over the weekend into the Hall of Fame for his spot on the Redeem team in 2008. Fun nugget about that, he and Chris Paul, who was also part of that team, became the only 2 active players to be in the Hall of Fame and still playing. The only 2 players who have ever done that while still active. It is obviously very hard. You need some sort of specialty entry like that, but it is an important reminder. It was for the 2008 Olympics, and these guys are still rolling. And in the case of LeBron, especially, we just noted he's the 12th best player in the league. You and I both had him in the top 10. He was just inducted into the Hall of Fame for something that happened in 2008.
Yeah, to put this in perspective, in 2008, at that time, George W. Bush was still president. Like at the time when USA was playing Spain, George W. Bush, like now, not to date LeBron too much, it was his second term. Like it wasn't the first term of W, but still, first term, by the way, is when LeBron entered the league.
But that's what I was about to say, though, is part of this thing. When you look at the 2000, it's not like LeBron was a rookie. You know, he was the Christian Laettner of that squad who was still in college or something.
Or AD when he was on the 2012 team.
He'd been in the league. He was going into, I believe, his 6th season.
Something like that. Also, too, really quick, I hope that LeBron and Chris Paul, being a part of this very unusual but inducted while still an active player setup, can serve as a gateway to getting rid of the 5 years from retirement milestone. And just the minute guys say they're retired, they become immediately eligible, because as we were reminded with Kobe Bryant's first posthumous Hall of Fame induction, and then with the Redeem team in 2008, you never know. Like, you don't know what's going to happen. Right. Don't make people like Kobe, who are so obviously first ballot, what the bleep are we even talking about inductees? don't make them wait.
Right. Well, I
Like,
mean,
just don't.
I agree with you. And there's certainly that doesn't, certain guys will have to wait. All you have to do is, I forget exactly what the eligibility rules are.
File your
Take
paperwork.
that 5 years and tack it on to the end. You got 5 more years to get in. It's fine.
Well, just the minute you say you're retired, you're eligible. Like,
Right, but I'm saying, like, yeah, however you want to compensate for the risk, but like, there's certain guys. Do we really need to wait when, LeBron retires, when Jokic retires, when when Anthony Davis retires? Like, we don't need to wait for this sort of stuff. Just do it.
like the question of, well, what if somebody unretires? Well, they'll be like LeBron and Chris Paul in the Hall of Fame as active players, because who gives a bleep? You know who, there are plenty of active coaches in the Hall of Fame still coaching. Like, just let's not be precious and stupid about this.
So LeBron is an interesting, we talked about this sort of God tier superstar versus the next tier, the regular kind. And I think LeBron is no longer in the God tier superstar. He used to play the Jokic role. He used to be, arguably even more God tier in the sense that, like, if you had LeBron, you were almost like half guaranteed. You were like 3/4 of the way.
8 years in a row of evidence says you were pretty guaranteed to get into the finals.
Right. But like, LeBron plus whatever, like you're like just LeBron is like 3/4 of the way, if not 90% of the way, to at least like a conference final.
He went to 9 out of 10 finals in near succession. He went 8 years in a row, 1 off year, then back in the finals. Oh, and by the way, too, there was 2007 in the finals, a couple years off, and then 8 straight years.
Right.
He's pretty good.
He's had a decent track record of success. Placing him is an interesting one. Like, we did have to juggle guys like Tatum, Halliburton, players who, Kyrie, players who are currently hurt, expected to come back and balance their lack of availability for this season versus kind of where we all know they fit in the grand scheme of things in the NBA. And to that end, LeBron is a tough guy to categorize, because there are, and you get a lot of flack on the show from the LeBron crowd for pointing out some of the challenges that come along with LeBron. But the flip side of that is, he was 6th in MVP voting last year. He was an all-NBA performer. And when you look at the guys around him over the last couple of seasons, especially, he's been actually as or more available than many of them. And that starts to, there's this interesting push-pull with the expectation of the end versus sort of what we're seeing and how you balance that stuff. It's why I still had LeBron, particularly in a season where Tatum can't play, as a top 10 guy. But I find him to be a kind of a fascinating player to categorize in that way.
Well, you mentioned Halliburton and Tatum and the people who, when we were told that we needed to include the injured people, that was part of the rules. We were not allowed to leave them out unless you just decided that Tyrese Halliburton or Tatum is not a top 100 player.
They're not Cooper Flag.
Right.
Got them in there.
And for me personally, I had them lower than LeBron, in part because while I am reasonably confident that they're going to come back and have prolific careers moving forward, I need to see it first, because it is a major injury. And also the big, I would say, controversy, to whatever degree this stuff matters to you, with LeBron's placement would be Wembanyama, who was 7th on the cumulative. I had Wembanyama somewhere in the teens, in part because, like what you were talking about, the availability issue. As great as Wembanyama clearly is, need to see him do more impactful winning, but also get through an entire season. But regardless of the actual number, and as we established at the top, you and I are not really going to get that angry about the actual number in and of itself. It is worth noting the Lakers are the only team in the NBA that have 2 players in the top 12 for this top 100 network consensus. The Lakers are the only one. OKC doesn't have it. Cleveland doesn't have it. Denver, Houston, name whoever you think are the biggest contenders in the league. Some of them you may think, very understandably, are better than the Lakers, are more likely to win a championship. Brian and I would probably agree with you on a lot of those. And the fact that LeBron and Luka, both in the top 12, does not guarantee the Lakers anything or make them front runners. But when you're talking about the foundation of a team, that's not nothing either. Like, these numbers don't mean anything, but they reflect something real. 2 guys in the top 12 as the only team with that ain't nothing.
And that is part of the conversation, is what kind of league are we in right now? Because are you better off? We'll maybe pick this up in the next segment, but the general consensus was always stack your team with as many superstars as you can and fill in the rest with sort of whatever. Mm-hmm. The consensus, I think, seems to be shifting more towards depth, more towards fit, more towards specific roles. And not without cause, but with specific roles to understand not just how your superstars fit together, but how your pieces overall fit together. Like the sum of your parts being a little bit greater than just being that top heavy. And so the question for the Lakers, especially when you factor in Austin Reaves at 58, which gives the Lakers 3 players in the top 60, which is pretty good. How does that work? Is that better to have 3 guys with that kind of talent where there are questions about balance in terms of skill set? What does it mean for the Western Conference and where the Lakers fit in? We'll do that next. We've had a lot of conversations, especially when you talk about fit, Andy, with in terms of the Lakers. Luka and LeBron have overlapping skill sets in ways that are both very valuable, but can be trickier to work with. They are not as straightforward as pair Luka with a dominant vertical center, or even somebody like Kyrie, or an elite
Anthony Davis, right? In a lot of ways. It'd be simpler to figure out the strengths and weaknesses together and how you use them to offset each other than, say, LeBron and Luka.
Yeah, but the LeBron and Luka pairing, to me at least, is a little bit easier than the Luka AR pairing. Like, the numbers of those 2 guys as a combo last year were actually pretty good. But as you think about how do we build that, how do we work it? Like, again, overlapping skill sets, and more importantly, overlapping weaknesses. Because like the biggest difference when comparing Luka with LeBron and Luka with AR is that LeBron, when you need him to be, can still crank it up defensively in ways that AR just can't. It's not that AR is always a bad defender, because that's not true. It's just that his weaknesses, there are certain things that he just isn't going to be able to fix.
LeBron at 41 is still a better athlete when he cranks it up than Austin Reaves.
And he's stronger. He's,
has ever been or ever will be. Like, that's just the truth. Like, LeBron does not always put it out there. And, lest we forget, he needed a little bit of time away from the team. And I've heard Matt Moore from Locked On NBA and Locked On Nuggets bring this up, that LeBron's highs are both often so spectacular and unprecedented that it can sometimes lead you to forget the lows that happen. Right. But again, when the
lows are still better than, but like when you say that about Austin, like he's better at an athlete at 40, like that's true of a lot of the league. It's not true. That's just Austin.
Right. But we're just talking specifically.
No, I understand.
But it matters though with Austin, because Austin is the guy that moving forward could be paired with Luka, and they are both by NBA standards average athletes at best.
Yeah, by overall. NBA standards. In terms of explosiveness, in terms of speed.
Right. Yes. I mean, both of them have plus athletic skills, like, the deceleration we've talked about with Luka.
Change of speed, body control.
Like Luka is a 1%, maybe a 0.5% with change of speed. Like Austin actually has.
Austin is too, with body control, change of direction, understanding of speed, space, things like that.
But overall athleticism and the strength in particular, Luka has pretty damn good strength, but Austin, they're not NBA athletes.
And we didn't get to it, and we'll go back to it. Like one of our mailbag topics was sort of talking about that. Like, what's the best way to fill in around potentially is a better, an AR Luka combo? Like, can you build with that going forward? And we'll get back into that before the end of the summer. But I think the thing with the Lakers is, to some degree, and this isn't totally by design because the Luka thing wasn't a plan, is the Lakers are kind of the last template in some ways of that God tier star structure surrounded by, to some degree, whatever we can fill it in with. And they've got some good guys. Like the whatever is a lot better now than it used to be, but it's not a team that was built in a methodical, and it's not a criticism. They didn't have the contextually, there was no opportunity to, but I think people understand what I'm saying. Like, it is.
Well, just in the off season, even while working from a place of relative disadvantage, just with the benefit of an off season and frankly, the ability to communicate with Bill Duffy, Luka's shared agent with DeAndre Ayton, and, knowing about buyout heads up and stuff like that, like, the roster now looks like less of a constructed in midair metaphor that Rob Pelinka talked about post AD. Like that roster that went into the playoffs was, this is the best we can do.
Right.
Given the circumstances, we have no regrets because we have Luka. However, we got to deal with this. This roster makes more sense.
It makes a lot more sense. And I think they benefited from, to use the Pelinka metaphor, they had unexpected help from refueling planes that came, in the form of buyouts that I don't think people were really expecting to be on the market. And so I look at this team, and I'm not picking the Lakers to be the NBA champions this year. I do not think they're going to finish in the top 3 in the Western Conference. I think for me, the most realistic, short of guys getting hurt across the league, I have them at 4. I think is like the natural sort of slot that they fit in. That said, I do think people are underselling the Lakers this year because they are looking at what happened in the playoffs last year, and they're thinking of they're looking at DeAndre Ayton as a disappointing number 1 pick and all that, who's never quite reached his potential, rather than a guy who's replacing Jackson Hayes. And I think if you took this rankings down to 150, 100, whatever, you're going to start to see DeAndre Ayton. You're going to start to see Marcus Smart. You're going to see Rui Hachimura, and players like that. Marcus Smart may not be the 2022 DPOY version that we saw back then, but he's replacing no one in terms of your backcourt, guy who can actually play against backcourt specific players, because DFS, the previous sort of 3-and-D stopper, has evolved to a place where he really can't guard down anymore. He can really only guard what he is and up. So you were comparing like the idealized version. People are doing it wrong. And so when you look at this Lakers roster with a God tier star, a next, whatever that next tier down is, whatever you want to call it, and LeBron, when healthy, is squarely in that. Go look at the guy's numbers and his production over the last couple seasons. He is on par with everything. That's why he was 6th in MVP voting last year. Now you filled in with a lot more depth. Again, I really feel like when you start to see all these things written down, we can carry some of this conversation. I know, Andy, you went through and did a lot of comparing around the West of how the Lakers balance. I just feel like the team itself is being sort of undersold as a legitimate what if contender in the West. What if something happens to Oklahoma City? What if they get a little bit of bad luck at the wrong time? I don't think that's me being a homer.
No, we actually a couple weeks ago talked about a piece that Matt Moore from second time he's been name checked on the show, but
I'll tell you what, you want write one nice thing when you're cranky Matt Moore about the Lakers. We just understand how hard it was for him to do that.
Right. But
how much it hurt.
the piece that he wrote for Fansided, that I'm paraphrasing the title a little bit, but why something like the Lakers are overhyped but underrated.
Mm-hmm.
And he talked about how, everything with the Lakers is always under a heavy, bright microscope. Like it's just hyper scrutinized, often, hyper, putting the hype in hyper for everything. But if you remove the hype and a lot of times remove the name value, or if you remove some of the controversies or polarization of a guy like DeAndre Ayton, and you just look at skill set and what he's supposed to provide, and the fact that he is a decided upgrade over Jackson Hayes, even if he changes absolutely nothing that the detractors would point to, he is considerably better. Marcus Smart may not be the point of attack defender that he used to be, or even the one that the Lakers need, but he's an upgrade over most of the options that they had, much less
none. They didn't have any.
Right. So,
and now, and by the way, to your point, Andy, with Smart there, you're now bumping Reaves to a place where he can be a better defender because you're slotting him more into the areas of stuff that he's good at. He is a lot like Luka in the sense that he is a very smart defender. He's actually got pretty good hands. And if you're putting him in space, like, as an awareness type defender, he can do a lot more. Luka, by the way, has something like 27 steals in the Eurobasket tournament. So like he's playing some defense over there.
Yeah. I mean, and during the week, like I mentioned, I want to get into the Lakers top 100 reps versus the rest of the league, because I do think it is instructive in both showcasing what the Lakers can do well and where I think they are vulnerable in roster construction compared to the rest of the league. And it echoes a lot of concerns I have about the team moving forward in the Luka era, how, the best ways to build around an incredible but very specific star like Luka. But I agree with you that the Lakers, there's always a temptation, I think, in media to avoid looking like you are hyping the Lakers because you don't want to be a part of the hype machine, and you end up just sort of milking the Lakers by talking about how you're not going to hype them.
Yeah, you bend over backwards to do it the other way.
But this is a good roster. Is it a great one? Don't know yet. Remains to be seen. But if nothing else, it is a team that I think could, like you said, benefit from a few good breaks. And if nothing else, they're good. Like they're a good team that I think fans can be excited about the season moving forward, even if you're not feeling confident about the championship odds.
Yeah, the problem is they're about 12 good teams like in the Western Conference.
You only work in the league that you're working in.
I know, arguably 7 or 8 really good teams, and then like 4 more that are like, damn, the team's not bad either. So we will continue to mine this top 100 for interesting info and things like that. We did not get to this Andrew Wiggins thing that Mark Stein wrote about. We'll try to do that tomorrow. Or Brian Windhorst's comments about LeBron and when he might walk away. So we'll do all that over the course of the week. My apologies again to Cooper Flagg and his family for leaving him off my rankings. Locked On Lakers on YouTube is where you can go hang out with over 36,000 subscribers to the channel. Subscribe to us on Apple. Subscribe to us on Spotify. Subscribe everywhere. We'll see you tomorrow.